When I make my videos, I don't want to just recap the episode. I don't like recapping the episode. I like sharing my own opinions. Like, it's just so cynical to want to have so much of your video just be recapping an episode. I just don't get it. It's just so, like, gross, like, that there's just someone out there that just is, like, okay with their video on SpongeBob. I know they're AI, they're just doing it for money or whatever, but, like, I just think that's sick. You don't have any passion in your life? Like, does the person behind SpongeTruths, what do they want? Do they desire? Do they feel love? Do they want anything? Do they look up into the sky at night and think that there might be more to them than making these videos? Like, I'm genuinely asking here. Like, do you not have dreams? Is this actually something you're proud of? Sponge Truths. Sponge Truths. So, Sponge Truths has this one video that has been really popping off. I've been talking a little bit about these AI channels and their view counts lately. A little while ago, this was already a month ago. So I guess a month ago, SpongeTruths had like their most recent like pop-off video, which is actually about Narlene, which caught my attention because when SpongeTruths posted this video, I was like kind of in the earlier stages of working on my Kamp Koral video. I recently reviewed every episode of Kamp Koral. It was a nightmare, but it was also a lot of fun because that show was a gold mine for what not to do when writing a cartoon show. So I had a lot of fun doing it. It's super long. It's the longest video the channel's ever done. You should totally go check it out if you haven't watched it already. It's so much more than just your average, ooh, Kamp Koral sucks. Kamp Koral was cringe. Like, I really put a lot into it. I'm very proud of it. But I've also, in watching Kamp Koral, I think I became a little bit of a Narlene Narwhal expert. So if you've never seen this character before, why SpongeBob fans avoid episodes with her. This is kind of an infamous character named Narlene Narwhal. And Narlene Narwhal actually was not introduced in this art style. That's actually how she appears in the main SpongeBob show. Narlene Narwhal was actually introduced in Kamp Koral. So she's usually seen in a 3D art style. Narlene's like the most like infamous character because she represents Kamp Koral. I had a whole take in the Kamp Koral video where my hottest take about Kamp Koral, I think, is that like Narlene is not that bad. Like, she's like fine. Like she's not like amazing. Like, I wouldn't say she's like my favorite character in the whole SpongeBob canon or whatever. But like, she's really not that bad. Like, she's like, when you watch Kamp Koral, and I did, and I didn't just watch Kamp Koral, I studied Kamp Koral. I sat there with a book. All right, I'm like I took notes on Kamp Koral for every single episode. And when you look at Kamp Koral and what's actually wrong with Kamp Koral, it's the writing. It's the fact that like the stories don't have lessons. It's the fact that it's all like slapstick and nonsense. It's the fact that it's not that funny. Narlene is like not even in the top 10, maybe not even in the top 20 problems with Kamp Koral. There are so many more issues than Narlene. She is like such a benign character. She's just kind of there. In fact, you took notes while watching. I take notes while watching anything that I do a video on. That's how I do it. I wrote a 2 hour and 10-minute video. Of course I took notes. I've started handwriting my videos actually recently in a book because I need to reduce my screen time because I'm a YouTuber. I spend so much time looking at screens. I'm trying to protect my vision long term. So I felt that the best way to do that would be to handwrite my videos. It takes a little longer, but I actually handwrite my videos in a little composition book, and sometimes I have to type them out if I do it on a teleprompter. Narlene is just not that bad. Like, when she shows up in Kamp Koral, I'm not like, oh no, Narlene is here, because I'm already going like, oh no, I'm watching Kamp Koral. So like, I'm already in a bad mood when I'm watching Kamp Koral. However, I think I know why Narlene has such a bad reputation. Because the thing about Kamp Koral is that no one watched Kamp Koral. People didn't watch Camp Coral, but people do watch SpongeBob. People even still watch modern SpongeBob. So in modern SpongeBob, because Narlene was introduced in Camp Coral, they have a couple of modern SpongeBob episodes that Narlene appears in because she exists in the SpongeBob universe now. SpongeBob will be like, "Oh, I haven't seen you since camp, Narlene." Like, she'll show up. So the reason that I think people actually hate Narlene is not because she's particularly an annoying character or she's bad in Camp Coral or anything, but it's that when she shows up in modern SpongeBob, we're like, oh no, they're trying to get us to watch Camp Coral. Like, it feels like Camp Coral is being shoehorned into modern SpongeBob. And a lot of people just want to ignore the existence of Camp Coral. Like, it also doesn't help that the Narlene episodes are particularly bad, even by modern SpongeBob standards. I reviewed 2 of her episodes in my Modern SpongeBob Ruined Plankton's Family video, where I talked about all 4 of the episodes that include Plankton's family, 2 of which include Narlene, because Narlene is a hillbilly stereotype. And that is really it. Narlene's problems begin and end with the hillbilly stereotype. It's just that they take Narlene, most of her personality traits are she's like a hillbilly. And for some reason, even though a hillbilly is a kind of person who actually exists, for some reason it's okay to make fun of hillbillies. For some reason, that group, it's just okay to mock them, even in a kid's show. I don't think it's okay. I think that there's actually a lot of classist undertones in making fun of hillbillies, which I mentioned in my Camp Coral video. And I actually feel like I didn't mention enough when I did my Plankton's Family video. That's actually why I wanted to talk about it more in my Camp Coral video, because I feel like I wasn't hard enough on the hillbilly stereotype in my Plankton's Family video. And I got some nice comments. I got a nice comment on the Camp Coral video that was talking about how they appreciated that I called out the hillbilly stereotype because it's so normalized to have this like hillbilly stereotype. And like, it's okay to have like a rural character, you know, but like you also have to like respect the culture. Like it like being a I don't know if hillbilly is like a nice term or whatever, but like being a rural person, depending on even where you are, rural is a very broad term. You could be rural in Appalachia, you could be rural in Texas, you could be rural in Alabama, you could be rural in the Rocky Mountains, North Dakota. There's so many places where you could be a rural person that are completely different places and completely different kinds of people. But they're not thinking about that when they write Narlene. They're just like, let's just have her say like yeehaw or whatever. And like, that's just kind of the thing. And, you know, it's just, it's, you know, even though Camp Coral came out in 2021, it feels dated. Like, it's like, really, we're doing, you know, stereotypes. Like, really, like, it's whatever. Like, that's the biggest problem with Narlene. But like, you could fix that. You could have Narlene be a character who is not like that, like very easily. And most of the time in Camp Coral, Narlene isn't really like that. She's just kind of there. There's a couple times where she's a stereotype for sure, but most of the time in Camp Coral, Narlene is not like that. Every time she appears in the main show, she is like that. She is a stereotype every time she appears in the main SpongeBob show. This is what leads to her infamy. So the other thing I want to discuss besides Narlene is, why did this video pop off so much? Why did this SpongeTruths video get 600K views? Because if you look before it, I guess they get like 100K every so often. Someone got almost 200K, 100K. They average SpongeTruths. I would say SpongeTruths averages about 50K views, but then they get 100K every so often. We're seeing a bit of a ceiling for SpongeTruths. You know, we're seeing about a 200K view ceiling for SpongeTruths in the most like recent time. This one is like, this is 5 months ago, and this is particularly high. You know, like, it's just they're getting a bit of a ceiling. Now, that's bad that a channel that uses AI this heavily is even getting 1 view. Honestly, it should get no views. The 600K view video is probably their most popular video. No, it isn't. It actually isn't. SpongeTruths has been around for about 1.5 years now. They're actually about exactly as old as my channel. Funnily enough, SpongeTruths started, I think, like 2 weeks before me. Like, we're like the same age, which is sad because I have 14,000 subscribers and they have 144,000. But they use AI and they cheat and they, you know, do all this whatever. So like, generally, actually having the amount of subscribers I have for the amount of time I've been on YouTube, or at least as long as I've had this channel, because I had a gaming channel before that, I think I'm actually in pretty good shape in terms of where I am. This is just like nonsense. And who knows if they bought subscribers? Who knows? Like, who knows what's going on? They post like 3 times a week because they use AI. Like, it's ridiculous. Oh, really? Fun fact: SpongeTruths channel was actually created in March 2007. Oh yeah, so they're one of those, right? Yeah, joined March 12th, 2007. So. Isn't that weird? The SpongeTruths joined March 12th, 2007, yet their first video is, this is November of 2024. Their first video is November of 2024, but they joined in March 2007. It's because this is a common thing with AI channels. They bought a channel that was already monetized. So they bought a channel that had over 1,000 subscribers. Maybe they bought a channel with like 20K subscribers. Like, I don't know what the channel was they bought. It's actually a good question. Like, how many subscribers did the SpongeTruths channel had when they started? That could really screw up your retention though. I wonder how that works. Because I feel like if you buy a channel that has 1,000 subscribers, I guess it was so old that the subscribers weren't even logged on anymore. Or maybe they set their videos to not notify subscribers or not go to subscribers. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know all the things to it. But yeah, they joined in 2007. But actually, functionally, SpongeTruths has only been around since November of 2024. So their most popular video actually has over 1 million views. They've had 1 million view videos. They've had 7, basically 8, 950K million view videos 9 months ago, 1 year ago, 7 months ago. Okay, so the most recent video that got over 1 million views on SpongeTruths is 7 months ago. It's either this Pearl theory or Patrick's paradox. And then this one wasn't that much after that. But like, that's a while ago that they got 1 million views. Also, 7 months ago, what was 7 months ago? That would have been like, 7 months ago would have been like October. So 7 months ago would have been like October, November of 2025. So like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if like people have become more anti-AI since then. If people become more aware of like spotting AI. I know Ave has been doing a ton of like SpongeTruths AI, their AI. The Sarek Artman thing, I don't know when exactly that all went down, when Sarek Artman got called out for using AI. I mean, I've been on the scene. I don't know if I've had an effect on this at all. Like, I've been doing a ton of SpongeTruths breakdowns, AI channel breakdowns, Like, I've been getting, I've been averaging around 10K views on each of these. Like, and I get, I get comments all the time that say, I didn't know SpongeTruths was AI. Thank you for telling me. Like, I do get that. Like, oh, I just unsubscribed from them. I love that. I love knowing that I am taking, even if it's only like a handful, like, I love that I'm taking away their business because they shouldn't have business. Like, Ave has been a bit of a warrior against AI. Look, actually, Ave kind of covered this video. He didn't. He did it as a joke where he said watching SpongeTruths until he's wrong about SpongeBob. So he pointed out like the first thing. It was literally the first sentence is wrong. So I'm not going to cover the first sentence of the video. Watch Ave's video because Ave already covered the first sentence. We're tag teaming it. He covers the first sentence. I'll cover the rest. Teamwork. But like, and he gets more views than me because he's a bigger channel. So, and he deserves it because he's talented. Yeah, Ave, he'll get like, 98K views, 28K views. Like he'll get these anti-AI videos that get a lot of views. So maybe that's like helping, like the fact that more recently we're seeing a couple less views. Like their last couple of videos for a channel like this, like 21K views is like nothing to sneeze at. Like if you're me, like it's enough that it could pay the bills, like if you're, depending on what you're operating at. But when you're used to like 50K views, 100K views, you don't want to be getting 20K views. You don't want to be getting that. Like, it's tough. I know like this like alternate characters thing, people click because of that. They even use the blue Mr. Krabs, the Mr. Claus. I wonder if that's because my most popular video has literally that same pose. I'm sure they just like know that did it. Like they probably saw my thumbnail and were like, "Oh, the blue Mr. Krabs got a lot of eyes on it," and they just put the blue Mr. Krabs there for that reason. Not that that's exactly stealing, but like, yeah. Does the AI make the clickbait, or does a person have to make that? A person has to decide what the clickbait is. They could prompt it. I don't think SpongeTruths really uses AI in the thumbnails. There's a couple examples where they kind of could be. Most of the time, it's just screenshots from the show. Some of these are weird, but this looks human made. This eye and the teeth. That doesn't really look AI, because that's just a real render of Pearl. No, they don't really use AI in their thumbnails. At least not in like ways that are like, this one is a generative extend. That's about it. Generative extend, but I don't see that much else. But anyway, so they had this big pop-off video, and then the next couple of videos did well, and then they kind of dropped back down again. It's actually kind of funny because I really went hard on them with this video and this video. I've done videos covering both of those. If you'll see, I actually did them in a row. Yeah, as you can see right here, we have the SpongeTruths doesn't understand friendship. With this one, I covered that one. And SpongeTruth can't stop lying was this one. Those are actually both videos that did pretty decently well for him. I wonder if I'm platforming him. I doubt it. I doubt that these videos getting good views would have anything to do with that. I got like 10K views on these stream highlight channels, especially because I'm tearing them apart. I don't think a lot of people would watch this and then be like, ooh, I gotta watch me that SpongeTruths video. I think they're watching me because they don't like SpongeTruths. So how do you know it's AI? How do I know what's AI? SpongeTruths? How do I know SpongeTruths is AI? The writing. The writing has AI tells. Watch my videos on it, man. Like I got a ton. It also stole from my channel in a very like, can I copy your homework way? Yeah, watch some of my other stuff. You'll be able to see why it's AI. I don't blame you for not knowing. Like you said, you just watch, you can't tell. Like that, it's designed to trick you. Like there's nothing wrong with not knowing. Like I never want anyone to feel bad about not knowing that something is AI. That's the point. It's tricking you. You're the victim. Like I'm not going to get mad at you, you know, for watching something that tricked you into watching it because you didn't know it was AI. I'm not going to be, that would not be very nice. Jackson just senses AI channels. It's a superpower. It's not a superpower. It's I just know a lot about AI and how you can point it out. Also, I watched Ave's videos on it too. I got to give Ave a lot of credit for it as well. Shaming people for falling for AI also can just alienate people from being educated by AI and the harm it brings. Absolutely. I don't want to make people feel bad for falling for AI. That's just mean. Now, if you're like, if you like defend it, like if you're like, I think it's fine that SpongeTruths, you know, uses AI, well, then I'm going to debate you on a moral ground, you know, but like, yeah, if you fall for it, like, I wish there was an AI for YouTube. Yeah, exactly. The guy who just said that they got tricked by it says, I wish there was an AI for YouTube. See, imagine if I was mean to that guy. Imagine if I was like, oh, you got tricked by Spot. Like they're on, like they agree with me, man. Like, you know. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out, why did this SpongeTruths video do better than all the others? Why did this one pop off? In a world where AI videos are kind of starting to drop off, in a world where like SpongeTruths isn't really doing as well, why did this video kind of hit a certain viral, you know, moment? Why did this video do so well? Funnily enough, I was actually watching this video grow. I thought it was going to reach 1 million views. While I'm glad it didn't, you know, I'm very glad it didn't. It would have made for a more sensational thumbnail. It would be like, why did this AI video get 1 million views? 600K views doesn't really have the same ring to it, but you know, whatever. So it's like, you know, I'm glad it didn't get that many views, because it's bad when AI videos get that many views, but also like would have made for a more sensational thumbnail. Such is life as a YouTuber. Also, they ripped off the Alpha J Show thumbnail. I don't know if Alpha J Show is the only person who does it, but that's what someone pointed out to me, is that I've actually watched the Alpha J Show sometimes. See, even the most recent video from the Alpha J Show. This is a human channel, by the way. This is an actual person who's actually been doing this a long time. They've been around for forever. How old are they? 10 years ago. Yeah, they've been around for a while. But like, look, their most recent one, a Bluey video, and they do the same thing. Overhated. She acts like a real kid. Like, it's just like a comments thing. Like, it's saying like, this is comments. So let's look at the Narlene one. So it's Narlene, and it says, awful moral. We're skipping the character for now. She is rude. Okay, so awful moral. I guess that's referring to episodes that she's in having a bad moral. Which in the case of one of the main show SpongeBob episodes she's in is true. In the Mood to Feud, I think has a pretty bad moral. It's like clearly about like these like two feuding groups, and the end doesn't really address like the morality of that. Like, it does have a bad moral. We're skipping this character for now. It's a little incoherent, right? We're skipping this. How do you skip a character? You don't know when they're going to show up. You could skip an episode. And why would you be skipping this character for now? Are you going to come back and watch it later? If you skip it, that means that you don't want to watch them. I don't know. We're skipping. I feel like they saw something where it said we're skipping this episode, and they just go, we're skipping this character. You can't really skip a character. I guess you could skip episodes that the character is in. Like, you're watching a modern SpongeBob episode and Narlene shows up and you're like, I'm skipping this episode. Which actually happened to me. I literally did that. It was in the Mood to Feud when I was watching like some of season 14. I was on a plane and it was like, oh, there's some modern SpongeBob. Maybe I'll watch some modern SpongeBob and see if there's any videos that I want to make on it. And I watched a couple modern SpongeBob episodes, and I got to In the Mood to Feud, and I saw Narlene, and I actually did skip the episode because Narlene was in it. Not because Narlene was in it specifically, but because it seemed like it was going to be a pretty bad episode, and Narlene was in it. So, and I was right, because I eventually had to watch In the Mood to Feud to do my Plankton video. So in a way, I actually did skip this character for now because I came back later and watched it. So I think I'm the only person who actually did skip this character for now. And the last one, she is rude. Narlene is not rude, right? I would say, like, of all of her bad character traits, I don't think rudeness is one of them. So that's just like a random, like, this is something I would say about a character I don't like.
SpongeBob wiki that said, I've literally never watched any episode where she's in the show, but just from what I've heard about her, I hate her.
Okay. Are you saying that person is right? Because you should probably actually watch the show, or at least watch someone who's like reviewed it. I guess maybe they're saying they've watched like, so like they could maybe watch my video on the Plankton family and be like, yeah, I hate this character because I said so. You should really form your own opinions though. I don't know. I usually encourage people to actually watch the show themselves. Even Kamp Koral, I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to recommend watching Kamp Koral, to be honest. Like, it's a lot and it's very boring, but you should maybe give it your own chance. You should maybe, like, I don't think you should just watch my Kamp Koral video and never see the show yourself and then go in like casual conversation, be like, yeah, Kamp Koral's the worst show ever just because of my video. Because maybe I was lying. Maybe I made up every plot. Maybe I just showed footage from actually good episodes and I just pretended that the plots were as I described them. You know? You don't know. So, like, this isn't exactly a great attitude to be like, just from what I've heard about this character, I hate her. You're really going to make a post on a wiki and be like, I never watched it, but I hate her. Like, I don't know, man. The episodes are 11 minutes long. Watch 5 minutes of it. Watch half of the episode and you'll be able to know.
Then there was this one on Twitter that says, Narlene is the worst character ever.
Narlene is the worst SpongeBob character ever. I'm sorry, Narlene fans. Worst SpongeBob character ever? That's a tall claim, man. Yeah, so what I said, this kind of ties into what I said about like why people actually hate Narlene. This is just demonstrable. The worst SpongeBob character ever. Like, I'm sure there's one, maybe like like maybe you don't want to count one-off characters. So like if Big Sister Sam was like more of an issue but like Big Sister Sam was only in one episode and like Narlene shows up all the time. If I had to guess, the reason this person said this is they hate Kamp Koral. and Narlene represents Camp Koral. So when Narlene shows up in a modern SpongeBob episode, they hate her because they're like, I have to remember Camp Koral. But that's not what's wrong with Camp Koral. What's wrong with Camp Koral is its writing. There's so many issues with Camp Koral that have nothing to do with Narlene as a character. And in fact, if Camp Koral fixed those writing problems, Narlene would have been a better character. Because the problems with Narlene are just the problems with Camp Koral or the problems with modern SpongeBob. But when you say, oh, I hate Narlene, you're just putting a face to it because it's easier to hate a person than to hate a concept or to criticize a concept. Even though Narlene isn't even a person, she's a character, she's a fictional character. But you could still look at, it's much easier to look at Narlene. I can picture Narlene in my head and go, yeah, I hate Narlene. But it's like when you picture poor writing decisions, you don't have a face to that. So it's harder to hate that. So we don't want to fall into this fallacious thinking of I hate Narlene when what you really hate is Camp Koral. And the reason you hate Camp Koral is actually kind of complicated and important to actually discuss.
So I did what any reasonable person would do. I went and watched every single Narlene episode, at least in the main show, to figure out exactly what's going on.
Oh, not even watching Camp Koral? Seriously? That's such important context. Is this video only going to be in the context of her being in the main show? Because you'd have a very different opinion of Narlene if you only look at how she appears in the main show. Why are you acting like this is a big achievement? Look what he said.
So I did what any reasonable person would do. I went and watched every single...
I did what any reasonable person would do. I went and watched every Narlene episode. It's 4 episodes, dude. It's not that much. Also, she's in 5 main show episodes. She's in Creepaway Camp. So you didn't even watch all of them. Creepaway Camp came out in October of 2024. It's been out for a year and a half. You just ignored it. Why are you like it's 4 episodes, bro? I could cover 4 episodes in one video in my sleep. And also they didn't really watch it. AI wrote the script. So you can't do this video and not talk about at least what you don't need to watch all of Camp Koral like I did, but you need to at least watch a handful of episodes from Camp Koral. But even then, I don't think it's fair to say that the character is so hated if you didn't watch all of her episodes. You need to watch the Camp Koral episodes. You really do. Or don't do the video. If you're going to talk about this character like this, you do have to watch all of her episodes. That's just how videos like this work. And what does it even matter? You make AI write the script anyway. Why not just have AI talk about, you know what it is? You know what? I know why. The reason that it is talking about only the main show episodes is because these are the episodes that people have actually made videos on. People don't talk about Camp Koral. My video on Camp Koral is the first video that there are some videos that talked about Camp Koral. Yes, I'm not the first guy to cover it. It's been a part of SpongeBob discourse for 5 years now. It's been around, but I think I'm the first person to cover every episode of Camp Koral in one video. At least I looked it up and I didn't find anything that seemed like, I think that the AI just doesn't have a lot of information on the Narlene episodes in Camp Koral. Camp Koral is not a very talked about show. One of the reasons that I did a video that was covering every Camp Koral episode is I actually felt like it's a thing that is a really interesting subject, but it actually hasn't really been talked about that much. People talk about Camp Koral as a subject, broad strokes. Oh, should Camp Koral exist? Is the concept of Camp Koral bad? Maybe you can find a video or two that actually went over an episode. But I feel like no one really talked about the show, talked about what it is, what was really wrong with it, beyond just, I don't like that SpongeBob Babies exists. And that was really the hole that I saw that made me want to make a Camp Koral video. So because that's not really out there, SpongeTruths AI didn't have any Camp Koral episodes, any opinions on Camp Koral episodes to take from. So it takes these more because these episodes are much more talked about. You take, people who review modern SpongeBob, I've talked about, I didn't talk about Upturn Girls. Upturn Girls I did not do a video on. But I've talked about In the Mood to Feud. I talked about Something Narwhal This Way Comes. I didn't really talk that much about Sandy Help Us. It was only in my Flying Dutchman video. I don't think I even mentioned Narlene because it was about the Flying Dutchman, because I just reviewed every Flying Dutchman episode. But like, people have covered these episodes commonly. Kamp Koral episodes, not so much.
And honestly, it's a lot more complicated than I expected. Now, before we get into...
Is it? It's really not. She's a bad hillbilly stereotype. It really begins and ends with that. That is the issue with her, is that she's a bad hillbilly stereotype. But let's see what they have to say.
Anything, we need to talk about where Narlene actually comes from.
Okay, they do address Kamp Koral.
That actually, yeah, no, we're not going to get into that conversation today.
You know, I kind of had that flippant attitude towards Kamp Koral sometimes. Like, if you watch, like in my Nosferatu video, it's funny, when I did my Nosferatu video, I wanted to talk about like every appearance of Nosferatu. I mostly talked about the original Graveyard Shift and then Squidferatu. And I had like a couple of other examples of Nosferatu and modern SpongeBob. And I had a moment where I talked about Nosferatu being in Kamp Koral. And I just kind of wrote it off. Very similar to how SpongeTruths is right now. And I was like, oh man, I guess I'm not giving it a fair shot if I don't watch the Kid Feratu episodes, because I just was kind of writing off Kamp Koral. And the reason that I did that is to avoid talking about Kamp Koral, because there are times where I would just be like, okay, I want to have this discussion about this character in the context of SpongeBob, but like, I don't want to get into how they're portrayed in Kamp Koral, you know, all that. Like, I'm thinking about doing a Bubble Bass video where I talk about every Bubble Bass episode. And I've technically seen every Bubble Bass episode in Kamp Koral, but Bubble Bass is like a background character in Kamp Koral. He barely does anything. He has like a couple episodes that have something to do with him. But like in SpongeBob, the main show, see, I call it the main show, Bubble Bass is like a big deal. Like, he's always there. So like, if I did a video that was like every Bubble Bass episode ranked or whatever, I wouldn't really want to talk. I'd kind of like, I'd address Kamp Koral, but I'd kind of want to just like get it out of there. And I did the same thing with Nosferatu. But you know what? You can't really do that with Narlene, because Narlene originated in Kamp Koral. It's not the same. Bubble Bass in Kamp Koral doesn't really do anything because they just carried over Bubble Bass from the main show, and he's just one of the campers. And same thing with Nosferatu being Kid Feratu. It's just like, oh, sometimes with the spooky kids, there's just a Nosferatu, but he's a kid. But you shouldn't just flippantly shoo away Kamp Koral when talking about Narlene. But the reason that it does is because, one, AI will pick up channels like mine that go to Kamp Koral and be like, Kamp Koral, I don't want to discuss Kamp Koral. Kamp Koral's the worst. So it picks up that, and it does it in a way that just is not correct, where like, you should talk about Kamp Koral in the context of Narlene, but it's seeing these other videos talk about, I don't want to talk about Kamp Koral. And
No, we're not going to get into that conversation today. But the short version is,
we're not getting into that conversation today. So that means SpongeTruths is going to discuss Kamp Koral? Well, SpongeTruths, you got a gold mine of Kamp Koral discourse now from my video.
in Kamp Koral, Narlene is basically the feral woods girl who lives near the camp. They are...
That's not really accurate. The feral woods. Okay, whatever. It's just AI making a statement that isn't like entirely accurate. That just, it's so. Also, you know what? You're already like, is the feral woods girl, like, that's actually worse. No, she actually lives in a house. Like, she doesn't live in the woods. I mean, she lives in the woods, but she lives in a house in the woods. She's like a cabin. Calling her feral is really reductive. Yeah.
Are the forest dwellers. They barter instead of using money, they cause chaos, and her feet are basically her solution to everything for whatever reason.
What? Equating hillbilly to feral is insane. You know, that's like a little bit, it's kind of AI racism. I'll say it, you know, like I think it is, you know, or classism or whatever. I mean, like a hillbilly is not really a race. But it's a kind of person, you know, like it is. And AI will pick up prejudices and push them, unless it's explicitly told not to. So with something like the hillbilly, like I said earlier, hillbillies are more accepted to be prejudiced against. So because of that, the AI programs don't have a thing in them where it says don't be prejudiced towards hillbilly, so it will equate hillbilly with feral. Whereas with certain other groups of people that are more known to have had racial or offensive stereotypes of them, an AI is usually programmed to not lean into those stereotypes, although sometimes it does, sometimes they prompt it into it. But also that's like a problem, is like you would never be able to meaningfully create an AI program that does all of the biases, that would never have something slip through the cracks, like replacing hillbilly with feral. You would never be able to reasonably do that. And also, what's the point? We don't need AI chatbots. We don't need AI to write for us. So who cares if you can't reasonably do that? The thing shouldn't exist in the first place. It's just another example of like how it will always have these issues. Should feet stuff even be in the show because it seems more like a kink? I addressed this a little bit in the Kamp Koral video, the foot thing. Feet can be funny in an innocent way, but I just think we've moved on as a culture. I think culturally we've moved on from feet being funny because certain people took it too far in some of these kids shows, and we now have a different association with it. I don't think that a foot joke is inherently a fetish. I don't think it is. But I think that when you're writing a show, especially a kid's show, you should be aware of how people view this stuff nowadays. I think it's very tone deaf to have Narlene do so much feet stuff. Like, really? Like, you don't know that people respond to it that way? It doesn't mean that they're necessarily trying to make it like a thing. Like they're getting a jolly out of putting feet in the show. But like, also, most important thing, even beyond any sort of thing of it being like a kink or whatever, it just isn't that funny. Like the character using her like feet all the time, it just isn't funny. Like there isn't a point where it made me laugh. Like just tell better jokes, you know? Maybe there's a point where it'd like make a kid laugh, I guess, but like it's just not that worth it.
And in that setting, it works, at least contextually.
What? But you didn't even show Kamp Koral footage. So this has nothing to do with Kamp Koral. Like it's saying that Narlene works in Kamp Koral because of those like things of like the bartering and the causing chaos and the feet thing. It does not. Those things are actually bad in, I mean, I don't like the bartering is, well, that is a thing actually. That does, that happens in Sugar Squeeze where she like scams Mr. Krabs and Mr. Krabs gives her a bunch of random junk. No, all of those things, the first two things are hillbilly stereotypes, which are bad in both shows. The last thing, what is it, the foot thing? That's also bad. All of those things are bad in Kamp Koral. It's not the fact that when she does that stuff in Kamp Koral, it's fine because it's in the woods. It's not fine ever. It's always bad writing. It's just she doesn't do it that often in Kamp Koral because Kamp Koral doesn't rely as much on her hillbilly stereotype except in a few key episodes.
A summer camp in the woods with a weird local kid lurking around the edge of the forest. Yeah, that's a classic camp story. She fits in there. But then Nickelodeon decided to bring her to the main show, and that's where things get really weird. Her debut in the main show was in the episode called Something Narwhal This Way.
This is like such a off way of describing it. Like this is just the problem with like AI making videos. Because it doesn't have a perspective. It's not properly giving this information. Like, that's not the problem, that, like, she worked in one setting and doesn't work in the main show setting. Like, that just is not true. They just lean too much into a stereotype. And they just wrote a bunch of episodes that weren't very good. And when you watch these episodes, you're biased against them because you can tell that the show is trying to get you to watch Kamp Koral and you don't want to think about Kamp Koral. So it's just giving people the wrong idea of, it's giving an opinion that no one actually has. And then people are going to watch this opinion that no one actually has. And then they're going to hold an opinion that isn't a real opinion. And that's just bad for discourse.
Because Narlene and Nobby invade his home. There's no explanation of why two woodland narwhals are suddenly in the middle of Bikini Bottom. They're just there.
Is that a criticism? They're there because they know SpongeBob. What are you talking about? Because they know, she explains why she's there. She says that SpongeBob said that she could stay with him. And then she does. She takes him up on his offer. That's not what's wrong with this episode. You see how, like, this is the problem? Like, AI is looking for when it's looking for something to say, it'll say anything as long as it's something to say. Even if it's just false. Like, that's not a criticism. And now people are going to watch this video and they're going to be like, huh, something narwhal this way comes makes no sense. Why would the narwhals be in? Well, because, like, this is media illiteracy. It promotes media illiteracy.
This scene already tells you everything you need to know about what this episode is going to be. Feet jokes, hillbilly gags, and gross out humor from start to finish.
There isn't gross out humor. I don't know what you're talking about. Do you know what gross out humor is? It is not a gross out episode. Not a single moment of gross out. I don't know what you're talking about.
Before long, they've completely renovated SpongeBob's house into a stereotypical Hicks.
So look how they're framing this as it's a criticism of the episode. Like, that's just the plot of the episode. Like, they're saying, oh, they're doing this. Well, like, yeah, that's the point. Like, the point is SpongeBob, like, Narlene is the one in the wrong, and SpongeBob is supposed to stand up for himself and kick her out. That's, like, the point of the story. The reason that this episode is bad is because the story doesn't really resolve properly. SpongeBob is inconsistent with him liking or not liking having Narlene around. He doesn't have a character arc. The episode ends too conveniently with Plankton just calling his family to kick them all out. These are actual criticisms. The fact that Narlene and Nobby take over the house, that's the point. That's the story. That's what the story is. You can't have this tone of, oh, this is like a criticism that, like, why doesn't SpongeBob just tell her to leave? Well, because he's a pushover and he told her that she could stay with him when they were kids and he doesn't know how to tell her no. That's just the story. Now, you could say that's inconsistent. You could say that, oh, SpongeBob would stand up for himself because of that time where he grabbed Mr. Krabs because of the first dime or whatever. Like, you could say that's a real criticism, but you can't criticize Narlene and Nobby for their actions from a writing standpoint. You can criticize their actions from the sense that, like, the episode is trying to say that what they're doing is wrong, but then you're just, that would just be analyzing the episode.
But as annoying as they are with every single one of their stereotypical hillbilly jokes, it's even more irritating to see that SpongeBob...
Stereotypical hillbilly jokes. Oh, really? You're so offended? You called her feral like 2 minutes earlier. So...
didn't give a single care about it. Everything these siblings do just gets
vilified, thrilified. Yee-haw!
Like, it just feels weird to watch. Because if you think back to episodes like Can You Spare a Dime?
Yeah.
Or Stanley SquarePants, SpongeBob has a whole history of struggling when someone overstays their welcome at his place. That tension is actually what makes those episodes funny. Here, none of that. He just nods along no matter what.
This was my criticism, by the way. I said this. Let me see how close it is. I still haven't yet gotten around to Kamp Koral, so I'm not really... I have now. Back when I made this video. Sure what these characters are like in that show, but considering what I've... Oh yeah, see how I quickly kind of went in on it? I'm not really sure how they're like in Kamp Koral, so I'll just talk about this. Scene of them here, I am not impressed. So let's talk a little bit. And actually, they weren't as bad in Kamp Koral, to be fair. Like, I actually, like, they look worse in... You can see this. Like, you can see from me that bias of, I thought that they were bad characters. I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought that they would be bad characters in Kamp Koral because of how they are in the main show, so we could see the exact bias. The story of the episode is incredibly weak. It just has Narlene kind of offhandedly point out that SpongeBob said she could stay with him anytime, and then she just kind of takes over his house. Now, on paper, this is a character flaw on SpongeBob's part. He'd see exactly what I said. Like, I gave it credit. I was acknowledging that them taking over his house is a part of the story. Did make a promise that someone could stay with him, and he didn't put his foot down when it started to go too far. But the episode doesn't really engage with that much at all. SpongeBob doesn't even really seem all that annoyed with them for most of the episode, which... See, that is the exact thing that SpongeTruths said. I'm sure SpongeTruths took it from me. Makes there be just about no tension in what should be a tense situation. An episode that did this same plot so much better was Can You Spare a... Literally the same example of SpongeTruths. SpongeTruths also said... I guess SpongeTruths also said Stanley as SquarePants. They added one more in. time, because it actually took us on the journey of setting up SpongeBob's relationship to Squidward. It set up why SpongeBob feels bad for Squidward. It shows us how uncomfortable Squidward overstaying his welcome is, and it has a really satisfying conclusion where SpongeBob stands up for himself. That's how you do. It's the same comparison. It's just the same. It's just blatant. It's just blatant. Exact same comparison.
Then a hillbilly version of Plankton shows up to save the day. Yeah.
And then a hillbilly version of Plankton shows up to save the day. What? Like no human would get that wrong in that way. Like, that's just ridiculous.
It feels like it belongs in a completely different show because it literally does. So obviously some fans really...
No, not at all, actually. You're so wrong. That plot would be bad in Kamp Koral too. Like that narrative is not correct. It would be okay. Like, that episode wouldn't have suddenly been okay. It wouldn't have made sense as a Kamp Koral episode. Because the whole point is Narlene took over SpongeBob's house. She was staying with him, implying that she lived somewhere else. In Kamp Koral, she lives near the campgrounds. So she wouldn't be able to do that. She wouldn't have, and also Kamp Koral itself is a small contained space. Whereas I guess you kind of could have done an episode like that in Kamp Koral, but it would have been just as bad. It wouldn't have made it better.
dislike this episode.
Wait, do narwhals eat plankton? Just need to know. No, they do not. Whales with teeth do not eat plankton. And narwhals have teeth. The kind of whales that eat plankton are the really big whales, like humpback whales, blue whales.
The reception wasn't great, but Nickelodeon didn't seem to notice or care because she came back for Uptown Girls.
For Uptown Girls. Like, it gets so many episode names. It can't do episode names. We saw this with Truth or Square when it called Truth or Square, Truth or Dare. Uptown Girls. It just can't get episode names right.
Narlene wants SpongeBob to show them around Bikini Bottom, but SpongeBob can't. He's working. So Pearl steps up and offers to take Narlene to the mall instead. And honestly,
you didn't need any of that. Like, you could have just been like, in Upturn Girls, Pearl and Narlene go to the mall together. You don't need SpongeBob. It can't work. And blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just so. When I make my videos, I don't want to just recap the episode. I don't like recapping the episode. I like sharing my own opinions. Like, it's just so cynical to want to have so much of your video just be recapping an episode. I just don't get it. It's just so, like, gross. Like, that there's just someone out there that just is, like, okay with their video on SpongeBob. I know they're AI, they're just doing it for money or whatever, but, like, I just think that's sick. You don't have any passion in your life. Like, does the person behind SpongeTruths, what do they want? Do they desire? Do they feel love? Do they want anything? Do they look up into the sky at night and think that there might be more to them than making these videos? Like, I'm genuinely asking here. Like, do you not have dreams? Is this actually something you're proud of?
Two thoughts hit me almost immediately. The first one is that, why does Pearl end up liking her at the end of the episode? She embarrasses both of them in front of Lady Upturn. Pearl just stands up for her in the end.
So,
wait, what?
what if my friend doesn't do things the way city people do?
Are you serious? Are you actually criticizing the positive message at the end? My goodness. See, AI will just say anything. It just is looking for things to say. That's that's the point. Like, maybe it could have been done better. Like, maybe it could have been like Pearl could have been more prejudiced at the beginning and, like, learned her lesson by the end, but, like, you're actually saying what you want. I'm sorry. Do you want this episode about two people going to the mall together and one of them is, like, a little bit of a culture shock? I'm sorry. Do you think the episode should end with Pearl saying, go back to the woods? Like, we can't be friends because I think you're scum? Is this actually, like, your conclusion here? Is he complaining about the fact that there's a character arc? Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it's not a character arc because I don't think Pearl really had to meaningfully get past anything. I watched this episode. I was like I kind of half watched this episode. I wasn't sure if I needed to talk about it in the video. So I just wanted to, this was the one that I hadn't seen yet. So I like kind of half watched it. I don't really remember that much. I had already watched like so much Kamp Koral when I watched this episode. I watched like in between a bunch of Kamp Koral. So like I don't fully remember if she had an arc, but like this being the ending is not a bad thing. That's crazy that that's a criticism.
She even goes out of character by sacrificing her father's diamond-class credit card as bait. Pearl has no real reason to relate to Narlene.
She's just doing the right thing. What do you mean? Like,
And yet the show just forces them to be besties by the end of the episode. Like SpongeBob going,
I don't know, man. Like, wasn't, I guess I wish I'd paid better attention to the episode. I mean, I just think that in the episode that they were kind of working Narlene around because she was different. Like, I get it. It's not a perfect episode. It's actually kind of a bad example. I would say of all the Narlene episodes, this one is really not that bad. Like, it's fine. It's not perfect. There's a lot of things that could have been fixed about it, but like the Something Narwhal This Way Comes and In the Mood to Feud have genuinely very blatant writing problems. In the Mood to Feud even more so, which I'm sure he's going to talk about next. But this episode was like fine. Like it's your typical like different person, and yet it had a lot of the feet stuff and it leaned a little too much into the hillbilly stereotype. But it didn't have a lot of those like issues. Like I don't think in an 11-minute episode, I think the idea of a cartoon character becoming friends with another character, even if it did happen kind of quickly, isn't so bad. And her sacrificing the like credit card, I think it's just saying that Narlene's worth as a person is more valuable than money. I think that's just the lesson that it's trying to convey. This is why media literacy is so important, because you need to look at the things that happen in a show as what is the statement that it is trying to make, not just looking at it at the surface level, what is happening. If you look at stuff at the surface level, what is happening, you're not going to analyze shows properly. You're going to be media illiterate and you're going to end up making mistakes. And you're just going to end up being a dumber person. Like, you just will. They're painting it as a bad narrative because it defends the character the AI has been instructed to hate. True, you're so right. This is like with the Patrick video. A little while back, I did another SpongeTruths video about how Patrick is a bad friend. And I was talking about how AI specifically sides with the prompter because it wants you to keep talking to it. So when you ask the AI, write me a video about how bad Narlene is, it's going to see an episode where a character defends Narlene, whether it's a bad episode or not, as a bad episode because it's going to criticize the person just for defending Narlene. Because the prompt is going, uh-oh, I need to not like Narlene. Let's say bad things about Narlene. If you can't extrapolate the kind of disastrous consequences that could come from that systematically, then you need to go back to second grade.
like SpongeBob going along with everything in the first episode, Pearl has to get a little out of character to make room for Narlene. That's already...
SpongeBob wasn't really out of character as far as modern SpongeBob goes. SpongeBob's out of character in the Something Narwhal This Way Comes. I hate the title of that episode. It's such a bad title. SpongeBob's out of character if you look at him in season 2. If you look at Can You Spare a Dime, even Stanley S. SquarePants, he's a little bit of a pushover. I guess he does kind of stand up for himself in that one too. But like in modern SpongeBob, he's actually a pushover like all the time. So like it actually isn't out of character at all. It's just not very good characterization because it doesn't make a very good statement.
Twice now that a main cast character had to bend their own personality just so Narlene could have a happy ending.
Neither of those were that. It's just sensationalizing. Neither of those were really that at all. And also that doesn't have anything to do with Narlene. Like the idea of SpongeBob being like too much of a pushover, or Pearl being too nice, like those two things, characters acting out of character. Let's say they were both 100% true. A character acting out of character is not a Narlene issue. That has nothing to do with Narlene. It's just that the show doesn't know how to write their own characters anymore. But you're taking Narlene because Narlene has a face and saying, oh, I hate this character because of this. You're hating on the character for more nuanced writing issues.
And the second thought Why isn't Sandy here instead? Texan scientist living in an underwater world. Pearl is a whale teenager trying to navigate modern society and fit in. If you
Pearl is, see how much of a nothing statement that is? Pearl is a whale teenager trying to navigate modern society. And what are you talking about? What do you mean modern society? Is it because the AI is getting confused and it's like Kamp Koral took place in the past? So because Kamp Koral was like a prequel show, it's thinking of Pearl as like in the modern day. So it's emphasizing modern society. Like it's such a nonsense phrase. Like just say Pearl is like a teenage girl archetype and Sandy is a Texas scientist type. So maybe Sandy would more so be Narlene's friend. Like just say that, man. But like, no, like AI has to like go on with all that nonsense. AI thinking Pearl should hate Narlene because it's different is wild. I mean, like, wouldn't you expect AI to like want there to be rigid class differences? The people who made it want there to be rigid class differences. Why would they go out of their way to have the AI not bias against that? Sure, like the AI will have like guardrails against like racism or like things that people would really point out are like, ooh, like if AI allowed that, it would get like, it would be like a problem. It would be a PR issue. But they're not going to have guardrails in there that are like, yeah, like AI shouldn't have classist overtones. AI shouldn't think that a hillbilly poor person should be friends with like a daughter of a rich man or something. Like I feel like the people who made AI would love that bias because they want that bias in the world. It's what gave them the power to create this garbage in the first place and make a bunch of money that they don't deserve off of it. Wait, why would the AI want Sandy to be in place of Narlene? They could do that, but Narlene better fits the story. No, I think it's saying that it makes more sense for Narlene to be friends with Sandy, right?
Pearl and Sandy could just carry that episode without breaking a sweat.
Oh, they are saying that it should be Pearl and Sandy. You're so right. I thought it was saying that Sandy should have replaced Pearl in the episode because Sandy and Narlene, like Sandy's from Texas. Sandy's not a hillbilly. She just has a Texas accent. But like that they'd be more likely to be friends also because I guess they were like in Kamp Koral together. It's saying that it should have been a Pearl and Sandy episode. That's so incorrect. Sandy's way too normal. That story would make no sense. You could maybe do a little bit of it with like, I guess Sandy, who's more like a no nonsense, like science person, like learning to like embrace like femininity and like, I don't know, man. I don't see it.
And that's what makes this one sting more than the first episode, honestly. Something Narwhal This Way Comes.
I think the Something Narwhal This Way Comes was the worst episode, but I think because of the structure of this video, you have to act like this one is worse. Because Something Narwhal This Way Comes was the first Narlene episode, so you have to act like it's the most benign of them, because if you put them in order from least worst to most worst, you would not be able to talk about the first episode first. It would mess up your order. So you're biasing, or the AI is biasing its opinions based on what sounds most sensationalist.
Look, Sandy is one of the most underutilized characters in the modern show. So when the season 13 finale put her front and center, I had a lot of hope, which is what the first...
Like you watched the show. Like... when the season 13 finale put her front and... Like, it's such a lie. Like a regular 11-minute episode is the last of season 13. You have a lot of like, it's just so, a person who actually watches the show would not talk like this, but like AI trying to emulate human speech would talk like this. It's ridiculous.
SpongeBob can't fix his broken alarm clock? Call Sandy. The Flying Dutchman has beef with a local witch? Call Sandy. A giant meteor is about to hit planet Earth in under a minute. Don't worry.
Look, they're recapping they always do the list. They always go really in depth. Like I described this episode when I did my Flying Dutchman video, and I basically said that this episode, my criticism of this episode is basically that it's just one of those cartoon episodes where you have character do like X thing. There's multiple SpongeBob episodes like this, by the way, where it's basically just like, Sandy, help this one character do this thing, and it's just a couple of those. And then the episode kind of does like one big one at the end, and then it's over. And it's weak. It's just weak writing of like, oh, here's just a bunch of bits. A series of bits is the whole episode. But SpongeTruths loves talking about episodes like this because they get to pad out the runtime by just repeating different things that happen. Or the AI likes doing it because it hits their word count better. It's just like it allows them to just describe every other thing that happened. Also, what the person was saying earlier, this prompt is biased against Narlene. So it's going to say that the episode was good, but Narlene made it bad. When the reason that this episode is, I wouldn't super call this episode bad. But the reason that this episode is mediocre has nothing to do with Narlene. It's just that it's a very cliche cartoon plot device of character who's super competent, does a bunch of different bits and saves a bunch of different people. That's the whole episode. That's what makes it kind of a lame episode. I don't even remember what Narlene did in this episode. Like, she was that inoffensive in it.
Because one of her experiments, Pecan Sandy, gets out of control and starts destroying everything. And Pecan Sandy is strong enough to beat Sandy in a karate fight and push her into a corner. So,
oh my God, just say that it's a monster. Like, and it's strong enough to beat Sandy in a, oh my God.
Eat combat, front and center again. But honestly, that's not
okay. Oh, I was gonna say that it's not just the feet thing. Let me see.
even the most baffling part of this episode. Narlene goes over to Pecan Sandy and just asks her what's wrong. And Pecan Sandy says she doesn't like being ordered around. So Narlene's solution?
We gotta let her loose to live her own life.
Like,
wait, that's a great moral. I didn't even remember that was the ending. As the way that you're describing it, I don't know, that sounds like actually a pretty good ending to this episode. And I said that the structure of this episode wasn't great, but as far as an episode like that goes, that with that structure of like, oh, Sandy helps all these people, that the end has that moral where another character who's more like down to earth, because she's rural, like Sandy's a stereotypical scientist, so Narlene is a stereotypical rural person, and a nice way to portray someone who is rural is to have them be down to earth. Actually, I think I was too hard on this episode. I think that SpongeTruths is making me like this episode more because they're describing it and I can tell that they're incorrect. So the only issue with this story is that they did a couple too many feet jokes. That's okay. We can work with that. All right. Look at the episode for what it is. Go, they probably shouldn't have done so many feet jokes. And like, that's about it. I don't know, man. That's actually not that bad.
forgive me, but that is one of the most absurd plot resolutions I've ever seen.
That's a great plot resolution. What are you talking about? That's like a reinforcing of the theme.
This is the same Sandy who had her own Kill Bill arc just to save her friend from a condominium scam. She is a
yeah? Why'd you use a thumbnail from someone else's video? Look at that. Look at that. They have the, what is that, channel Frederator? They just took someone else's thumbnail for that with their logo.
And now she's releasing a sentient pecan on steroids into the city. Sandy has no reason to let...
This is why media literacy is important. Oh my goodness. This is why media literacy is important. This might be, I think, the worst thing that SpongeTruths perpetuates. Like, okay, so like they're AI, they're this, they're that, there's all these, but I think this is the worst thing that SpongeTruths perpetuates is looking at shows this shallowly. Because if you look at shows like this, you will never look at shows for what they're actually trying to say. And you yourself are going to end up a shallow and honestly kind of wretched person. Like this makes people evil. I'm gonna be sensationalist. Looking at shows like this, this is what creates evil people, because they never will question their morals, because they can look at this episode is trying to say that Sandy shouldn't have given so many orders to this thing, just like how everyone in the episode was giving her orders. How is any of this related to media literacy? Because it's media illiterate to look at this scene and not acknowledge that the point of Sandy letting the monster go is the message of the story, which is you shouldn't always tell people what to do all the time. People should have their freedom. And when you look at it as Sandy wouldn't let a monster go because that's dangerous, that is a media illiterate take because you are not looking at the media for what it's actually trying to say. Media literacy means that you look at movies and TV shows or any piece of media as what is it trying to say? What is its utility? What is its social function? But when you look at, this is the security system takes control of Squidward's house. Like, you're looking at the show and the characters as if you live in this world, but you don't live in this world. You don't live in Bikini Bottom. You don't live in the SpongeBob universe. You live in our world. So shows only matter in the sense of how they affect our world. And when something like SpongeTruths perpetuates this media literacy, because AI is not capable of media literacy, you need a human perspective to understand these things. It can pick up a little bit of it through like textbooks or whatever, but like it just can't analyze media in the right way. So it results in this shallow security system takes control of Squidward's house, and that has negative consequences. There are people who will watch this video. Remember, this video, this one in particular, got 600,000 views. Okay. Let's say 10% of those people watched to the very end. Let's say 10%. It's usually like 20% on a video of this success rate. But let's say it's even 10% watched to the end. That is 60,000 people watched the entirety of this video. Probably even more. Let's say 100,000 people watched to this point. How many of them watched this part where it said this and agreed with it and went, yeah, that makes sense? And now they're not looking at the show for what it's supposed to be. This causes people to not actually take lessons from the shows that they watch. And that is a problem because the arts are something that helps us form our morals. It's a positive thing that this episode exists. I know I said earlier it's not perfect. It has a lot of typical cartoon things. It's definitely not as strong as seasons 1 through 3, but this message is a positive thing. It's a good thing that there are some kids who grew up watching this episode in particular. It's not good that it's near so many other modern SpongeBob episodes that have no lesson, but like it's good that like there's at least this, and a kid can watch this and they can be like, oh, I shouldn't just always do things for other people all the time. Like, it's okay to sometime relax. And they learned that from Narlene. But because this video was prompted to be against Narlene, and Narlene was the one who gave that lesson, it's now going to disagree with that lesson and try to come up with some flimsy justification for it. All of what that should be is gone. And it's just because, and this all leads me back to the main point, which is AI shouldn't write videos. People should write videos. And a person can make this mistake. We have security system takes control of Squidward's house. That was not AI. AI did not make that. But AI is so uniquely capable of putting out a lot of stuff, and it always puts out something that completely lacks a human perspective. At least with security system takes control of Squidward's house, that is within someone who has a human perspective, who in some way has at least the slightest understanding of how that episode had flaws. It's not perfect. It can have issues for sure. It's better if a person makes this mistake, especially because a person can be meaningfully criticized and take said criticism into consideration for future content. That is so true. If I commented what I just said on this video, SpongeTruths can't take that into consideration because the AI literally cannot do the thing that I'm describing.
She has even less reason to agree with her, but here she is anyway, just going along with it. Being dumb for
She has even less reason to agree with her. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because she relates to the Pecan Sandy? Because she just went through the exact same thing that it went through. Maybe because the thing that Narlene described about how the monster always has to do what other people tell it to do is the exact thing that Sandy just went through the previous 9 minutes of this episode. And that's her, and maybe that's a character arc, a thing that you, SpongeTruths, do not understand and have never used the phrase character arc once in any of your videos. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if they've ever said character arc in their I'm sure AI could say character arc. I don't think it can understand it, but yeah.
At this point, you'd think Nickelodeon would have gotten the message. 3 episodes in, the reception
What message?
wasn't exactly glowing, but would
What reception? What are you talking about? They're like 11-minute episodes. You think they're getting individual feedback on every episode? This is not how. This is another problem with it.
Would have
too.
gotten the message. 3 episodes in, the reception.
Like, this is just not how, like, another thing that I try to do when I talk about, like, modern SpongeBob being bad, I talked about this a lot with Kamp Koral being bad, is I try to actually understand the real conditions of why shows end up the way that they do. What SpongeTruths is saying here is asinine. It's asinine. It makes no sense. So SpongeTruths is saying that they made 3 episodes with Narlene. First of all, cartoon episodes take like a year to even make. So like, if you're saying that that Nickelodeon should have seen that these 3 episodes were not well received and then not made the 4th one, well, I'm sure that 4th episode was already well into production by the time these episodes aired, because that's just how cartoons work. Wait, they take long? Cartoon episodes? Oh yeah. Whole industry. Like, and you need to understand that when you're covering the show. It's okay that you, chatter, don't know that they take that long. You're just a normal guy. Like, you're supposed to learn that from people like me or people like SpongeTruths. When you're a creator, you have a responsibility to be informed on these things. Not just say, oh, Nickelodeon didn't get the message. Also, even beyond that, how is Nickelodeon going to know that these 3 episodes were like not well received? First of all, I don't think Sandy Help Us got, first of the 3, 2 of them had decent messages. So really, Something Narwhal This Way Comes would probably have been a slightly more infamous episode. But like, what is Nickelodeon doing? You think they're watching YouTubers, seeing the reviews? Like, there's probably a little bit of that, a little bit of feedback, the ratings, all this stuff, but that does not affect what episodes come out. So when you say stuff like this, again, you're making people dumber. People are going to watch this and they're going to think, yeah, why didn't Nickelodeon get the message of that people didn't like these Narlene episodes and stop using her? What is wrong with Nickelodeon? Well, you're not understanding how these things work. And there are real problems with how Nickelodeon operates. There are issues with executives not giving the writers enough time to write good stories. There are issues with good stories not being valued, with character arcs not being put in, with shows not having rules for, oh, your character should always have an arc. Every character should learn something. Showing a foot is not a joke. Like, yes, these are all criticisms. These are all things that the executives should have as rules and pass down to the writers. This SpongeBob YouTuber said he doesn't like Narlene. Let's never use her again. No SpongeBob writer ever. Dude, people, and by the way, this is a real thing. People will comment on my videos and they'll be like, why are you complaining about modern SpongeBob? Clearly, the writers aren't going to watch your videos and change. And I'm like, of course they aren't. My videos aren't for them. Like, why do you think that? That's not how these things work. My videos are for the public, so that if they become writers, they can maybe do some good, or if they become executives, or just in choosing what to watch, you know, like in a media landscape, like you can just choose shows that have the things that I think are good writing, and then you're going to be better off by watching better shows. There's better shows out there than modern SpongeBob. There's better shows out there than Kamp Koral. When people watch my videos and they'll comment, they'll be like, maybe you should just give up on modern SpongeBob. It's not for you. It's like, well, maybe other people will learn that it's not for them either, because they see my videos on it and they see, oh, it's not that good. And then I realize as an overused AI tale, it so is. I'm just now realizing that. That was a total accident.
In the mood for feud. The episode starts with
in the mood for a feud. Of course, it just pronounces it wrong. In the mood for feud. That's not even like uptown girls instead of upturn girls. Okay, like that's like the AI confusing it with the Billy Joel song. Like, okay, sure, whatever. But like, in the mood for feud. What?
But then the episode does something that kind of kills whatever goodwill it built.
What is this editing? What the heck? Oh my goodness.
Up. After spending the whole
What? What was that imagery?
Throwing shoes, tater tots, the whole thing, we find out at the end
Throwing shoes, tater tots. They're potatoes. They're not tater tots.
it was just an excuse to have Narlene and her family cause chaos for 20 minutes and walk away without any.
It's an 11-minute episode. Cause chaos for 20 minutes. The AI got confused with episode length, because most episodes of TV shows are 20 minutes. Celibate Sahara with the $50. Well, thank you so much. Narlene could be a great character if she was written better. An episode where Squidward was forced to hang out with Narlene and SpongeBob with Squilliam showing up to make fun of them for being poor could be a really great lesson about classism. Yeah, for sure. Like, Narlene is not a bad character in concept. You just have to use her right. Like, she's just used poorly. There's nothing about her that is inherently bad. It's just she just originated in a bad show, and then they put her in episodes that are considered bad. Although now that we're actually looking at it, of the 4 episodes that she's in, the 2 that are pretty bad are the ones that I talked about in my Plankton's Family video.
No matter what the episode is about, no matter where it's set, the narwhal feet jokes will find their way into it somehow. So
It literally is just the foot thing. That's like the only real criticism. And even that isn't said well. Like in my Kamp Koral video, I had a much better take on the foot thing. And I said it once and I let it go, you know? I guess there was another episode where it specifically like feet was a part of the plot in another episode. So I mentioned feet, I think twice in my 2 hour and 10 minute Kamp Koral video. I addressed the foot thing twice. First, when Narlene was introduced, and second, when there was an episode that specifically focused on a foot thing that I had to address.
So now we've sat through 4 Narlene episodes in the main show, and
there are 5 in the main show. Just skip, and I know why it skipped Creepaway Camp. It's because Creepaway Camp would have been a lot more to explain, and Creepaway Camp does not fit SpongeTruths narrative at all. Narlene doesn't really do much in Creepaway Camp because it's like a whole like Kamp Koral like reunion episode, so it's not really focused on her, whereas those other 4 episodes have more of a focus on her. So like Creepaway Camp just doesn't fit SpongeTruth's narrative, so the AI just ignored it.
if you've been paying attention, the pattern isn't difficult to see. She shows up out of nowhere, causes chaos, then
She doesn't show up out of nowhere. She always has a reason to show up. It's never out of nowhere. Someone said in the chat earlier, like, it's saying she goes to Bikini Bottom for no reason. Like, the show does establish that her childhood friends live in Bikini Bottom. So, like, it's not that weird that she shows up.
the main cast get a little dumber to make room for her. Nobody faces any real consequences, and then
No, the main cast is that dumb in most episodes, actually. That's a modern SpongeBob problem, not a Narlene problem.
she leaves until the next time Nickelodeon decides to bring her back. Unlike the previous 3 episodes,
Next time Nickelodeon decides to bring her back in Creepaway Camp, where she doesn't really do any of those things that you just described. And she didn't really do them in the first place.
the problem was never really the concept around her. The problem is just her, and what the show refused.
That's so funny that I said the exact opposite. That is like the opposite take of me in my Kamp Koral video. My literal, like that's literally my opposite take is in my Kamp Koral video, I have a whole section where I like defend Narlene. It's kind of towards the end of the video because I wanted people to watch me review a bunch of Narlene episodes for me to then go, hey guys, like Narlene is not that bad. And it's literally the opposite take. It's, you don't hate Narlene, you hate Kamp Koral, and you hate bad writing. And Narlene is just a face you can put on it. We don't want to hate SpongeBob because SpongeBob is the face, SpongeBob the character. SpongeBob is the face of episodes that we loved in the first 3 seasons. Or maybe beyond that, maybe you love season 4, season 5, you know, like SpongeBob is the face of episodes we liked. Every character that is like a main character since the beginning is the face of episodes we liked. But Narlene is unique in the sense that she, one, represents Kamp Koral specifically, and she represents some very mediocre modern SpongeBob episodes. Although as we see, it's really only 2 out of the 4 that were mentioned here. So we put a face to that and go, great, I hate Narlene. And when you go, I hate Narlene, Narlene is the problem, you're not focusing on the actual problem, which is the writing.
I'm not making this video to tell you whether Narlene is a good or a bad character. That's up to you to
No, you're making this video to generate ad revenue because you don't care about the things that you're talking about.
decide. Because my honest answer to that question is, it depends on where you put her. Which brings me to Creepaway Camp.
Oh, he does mention Creepaway Camp. Okay. Okay, he does mention Creepaway Camp. Okay. All right, he does mention Creepaway Camp. All right. Retracted.
Yeah. A season 14.
Again, no mention of a single Kamp Koral episode. It's like, it's either that the AI didn't have anything to say about a specific Kamp Koral episode because Kamp Koral is not as talked about as these modern episodes, or maybe they didn't want the editor to have to look for Kamp Koral footage. So they just omitted any mentions of Kamp Koral. Could be that. It could also maybe be that SpongeTruths only wants to talk about the SpongeBob main show. Maybe it goes out of its way to not discuss any spin-offs. Like any spin-off episodes. Like it discusses the existence of them, sure. I don't know. Is there any time where it would actually discuss a Kamp Koral episode? I'm sure it would, because I bet there's probably like some kind of mediocre like secret formula timeline video on SpongeTruths, just knowing them, where they would talk about Kitchen Sponge, I feel like, because that's a big like timeline episode in Kamp Koral. It's just odd that you have a whole video about Narlene and you talk about all of her appearances in the main SpongeBob show. Now with Creepaway Camp, it actually is all of them. I'm pretty sure it's only those 5. And you don't even show a shot of her. We haven't even been shown her 3D model.
Fans, even the ones who can't stand Narlene, had to admit this was the one time she had a decent role. And if you look at why it worked,
I don't think she had a decent role. I think she like did nothing. I actually wouldn't admit that. Creepaway Camp is a nothing episode. Creepaway Camp is garbage. It's 40 minutes long. It's slow and meandering. It has like really tired horror movie tropes of like, ooh, if you're in a horror movie, you gotta stick together. It's so bad. Creepaway Camp is awful. Narlene just does nothing in Creepaway Camp. She just doesn't do anything. So like that's what makes her fine in Creepaway Camp, because in all of those other episodes, if you don't like those other episodes, you don't like them because of Narlene. Like, you know, for Sandy Help Us, it would pretty much have to begin and end with like Narlene foot makes you uncomfortable. All of those episodes, all those previous episodes will have a thing that Narlene did that would make a viewer uncomfortable, that would make you not like her. But Creepaway Camp is just a bad episode because it's boring. And Narlene doesn't even show up until like there's like 5 minutes left of the episode. Like she's at the end. So you're already exhausted in Creepaway Camp by the time she shows up. So you already hate Creepaway Camp by the time you see her. So she's not really that offensive in Creepaway Camp. So it's not so much that she has a good role. I wonder what he's going to say is like her good role. Like, I don't know what she does.
the answer is pretty simple. The main cast went to her world again this time, and she's not the center of attention. She gets captured early and becomes part of the ensemble just like everyone else. No feet
Yeah, she's barely in it.
combat saving the day, and no main character.
Wait, she did do feet combat. You literally showed a shot of her doing. She does do foot stuff in Creepaway Camp. Like it's just not like you're just numb to it by this point. You literally showed a shot of it.
And no main character gets out of character to make room for her. She just exists as a.
It's not a thing. A main character getting out of character for her is just not. That's just not an observation. Pulled that out of nowhere.
Now, I want to be clear. I'm not here to tell you can't.
Look, here's a frame from Kamp Koral. This is the first time we're seeing a frame from Kamp Koral other than like the poster.
Kamp Koral is a good show. That's a whole separate conversation. But even if you take Kamp Koral completely out of the picture, I think the point still
You shouldn't. She's a Kamp Koral character.
stands. Creepaway Camp somehow works for her because at least the setting justifies her presence. Meanwhile, the main show episodes don't fit her because nothing about Bikini Bottom was ever built
This episode's not in Bikini Bottom, so
to drag a Kamp Koral character into a completely different show with different audience expectations. And every single time,
yeah, that's just like not the issue. Like, so SpongeTruths can't articulate real points. It can't look at how like actual writing works. It can't look at the media literate takes. So it just has to say something. And then when it says something and that something is incorrect, the audience then internalizes it and it makes them dumber. It's really messed up, man.
of underutilized characters who deserve more screen time. Sandy, Pearl, even characters like Mrs. Puff who barely show up in modern episodes anymore.
Are you just saying that these characters could have replaced Narlene because they're also women? That's literally what it's saying. Like, again, with like AI taking, this is AI sexism now. Like, just like, because it's not, AI will perpetuate like the worst of our prejudices because that's what robots do. It compartmentalizes data and goes, oh, okay, these characters are women. Narlene is also a woman. So these characters could have replaced Narlene in episodes. Like, couldn't you say the same thing that Narlene could have been replaced by Plankton's cousin Clem? Because they're both hillbilly-like, you know, but this is what AI does. And this is why AI racism or AI sexism here, AI classism, like I'm planning on doing, planning on diving deep into that soon. So stay tuned. But it's literally just saying like, no, actually like, and by the way, to the writer's credit, to the character designer's credit, Narlene is a distinct character from all of these female characters. Like she is. Like she's a little too much of a stereotype. Absolutely. Acting like any of these characters could just replace Narlene in any of those episodes. Like they just kind of can't. Like they literally can't. Now you could say that some of those episodes didn't need to exist. Like something Narwhal This Way Comes. It's just a typical someone stays with SpongeBob and overstays their welcome. That's not even specifically a woman thing. They did that episode with Can You Spare a Dime with Squidward and it was great. And that was all you needed. Mrs. Puff? When will Mrs. Puff replace Narlene? How would In the Mood to Feud work with Mrs. Puff instead of Narlene? That doesn't make any sense.
Kept hoping that if they put Narlene in enough main show episodes, fans would eventually come around. Well, I'm sorry to say this.
They didn't put her in that many episodes, though. They were trying to do that. That is why people didn't like her in the main show, is because they were trying to, like, normalize Kamp Koral by putting Narlene in the main show. That was a thing. Absolutely. But that's a very cold take. This could have gotten it from anywhere.
Maybe they finally got the message. Or maybe she's just waiting for her own moment in season 16.
Waiting for, well, no, the season 16 episodes have all been announced and Narlene is actually not in season 16. Like, we know that. I'm pretty sure she's confirmed and I'm pretty sure you would know now. December 18th, what is this poster? Season 16, December 18th, 2020. Look, there's a signature on the bottom. Just stealing someone's art, man. You can know by now all of season 16. No, wait, season 16 is done. Right, the last 4 episodes they like didn't air. They aired in like New Zealand or something. They aired somewhere. Like season 16 is all out there. So Narlene is not going to appear in season 16. We already know this. Maybe she'll be in season 17. I think they're not going to bring Narlene back. I think they know that she's associated with Kamp Koral. And like, I think she is done for that reason because it's like, well, like she's associated with Kamp Koral. I think she's finished. And I think that's fine. I think like it was all just a mess, you know, like Narlene could have been a good character. She just wasn't. And I think they're just going to let her go. And I don't think she's going to come back. Did they drop her once Kamp Koral was canned? I'm pretty sure. I honestly, I think they're going to retcon Kamp Koral. That's my guess. I think SpongeBob, I think they're going to give it like a bit more of a buffer. I'm going to say season 18 or maybe season 19, but like by season 20, I think they're going to retcon Kamp Koral. I think there's going to be some kind of flashback that's going to be like, oh, or they're just never going to mention it again. But I'd say like I'd say I'm like 50-50. They're either going to retcon Kamp Koral completely or they're never going to mention Kamp Koral again. It's one of the two. They want people to forget about it. But either way, Narlene is gone. How can Kamp Koral be canceled? Isn't the show just a business transaction? It didn't get enough viewers. People didn't watch it. It just wasn't successful. It just was not a meaningful... Nickelodeon just did not have a financial incentive to keep paying to have it made because not enough people watched it. They saw in their... And it's a little bit of a streaming era thing. You know, Kamp Koral comes out in Paramount Plus and they release the whole season at once or whatever. I don't remember really how it was introduced. I think some of it aired on Nickelodeon sometimes, but I don't really know. Yeah, there's like, it just wasn't very successful. It just didn't do what it was, what they wanted it to do. Like they wanted it to be, oh, we're making SpongeBob, but with cheaper animation and he's like a kid out of summer camp. They basically wanted to make SpongeBob twice and make like double the money, or at least like 1.5 times. Like even if Kamp Koral was half as popular as SpongeBob, but it probably wasn't even that. And it just failed. And that's why Kamp Koral isn't around anymore. Paramount Plus is genuinely a terrible service that couldn't have helped. Dude, the streaming era is so bad. We need to do something. Like we need to radically restructure how television shows are presented to people. It's not good. It's not good. We are in such a bad place with it. It's a genuine problem. I don't know if we can reasonably go back to like cable like we used to, where it's like, you know, you watch the show and then there's the ads in between. But that was kind of the way to do it. Like this streaming stuff was just it, you know, it felt like it was too good to be true. You watch any show you want at any time and you binge watch it, you watch the whole show in a row. Felt like it was too good to be true because it was. It was too good to be true and it ruined television industry. So like, you know, and that's probably part of why Camp Koral was so bad, because like they don't have the whole like immediate feedback of it, where like Camp Koral, you release the whole season at once. SpongeBob, you know, it took a while. Things were in production for a while, but like those episodes aired, they aired on TV. They got paid for reruns. They got paid for ads. Like it was a whole thing, man. It wasn't the same. This whole thing, like Camp Koral, how do you know how successful it was? Ooh, we got this many new Paramount Plus subscribers.
At the end of the day, Narlene isn't the villain of the story. She has her own
You just said that she was the problem.
place in Camp Koral and somehow got pulled into a completely different world over.
She has her place in Camp Koral, so he's defending her presence in Camp Koral, but he hasn't given an episode. Didn't watch an episode. Didn't discuss an episode. How does she have a place in Camp Koral? You didn't watch any of her episodes. So like you're not like you're lying. Why did this video do so well compared to the other ones? It's really tough to say. Why this video? I don't get it. Is it just because people like hate Narlene that much? Because she hasn't even been on the show for a while. So like why 1 month ago did this video of all SpongeTruths videos blow up? Maybe it's because it's not as incoherent as most SpongeTruths videos. Like it does have that thing where it says multiple times that the reason that like it was saying like the problem with Narlene is that other characters are dumber around her. Like it said that multiple times. And it's wrong, of course, but like that sounds like a through line. Like that sounds like a statement that makes sense. So maybe that tricked enough people into thinking it was a more solid video. I guess also the thumbnail is not their usual SpongeTruthsy thumbnail. Like it kind of ripped off that Alpha J show thumbnail. So maybe people clicked it thinking it was the Alpha J show, and that just bumped up its regular click-through rate enough to put it into the 600,000. And maybe of those people who clicked on it thinking it was the Alpha J show, they were like, oh, like this is a different channel, but they didn't know it was SpongeTruths and didn't know it was AI, so they stuck around anyway. That's probably one theory. I'd say that that's probably about how this one slipped through the cracks and became a little bigger. I think it was just the right combination of the character being very hated to the point where it rage baited people into clicking it. It ripped off the Alpha J show thumbnail, so people kind of thought it was him, or that just the Alpha J thumbnail is a good thumbnail in general, whether you're specifically a fan of Alpha J or not, that it's just a thing that people click on. And the video itself, while it is definitely incoherent in a lot of ways and incorrect and media illiterate, to a layman, it can come off as coherent enough that one would probably be a little more inclined to watch it all the way through. Whereas with certain other videos that didn't do as well, probably these more recent ones, they probably seemed a little more ridiculous and just didn't really grab people as well. It's probably what happened. Anyway, SpongeTruths is terrible. SpongeTruths is the worst. And yeah, don't watch them. And hopefully I'm doing some damage to SpongeTruths. I would really love, like, I love when I see like people say like I unsubscribed from SpongeTruths because of you. I don't know if some of their like recent downturn, their fewer views these past 5 videos, I don't know if that's because of me or because of me and Ave and our efforts, but maybe it is. I don't know. Sometimes all you got to do is make people aware. And then enough people, you know, watch mine and Ave's videos and go, oh, SpongeTruths, they're the AI channel. And then they see it get recommended to them. They go, oh, it looks like an interesting SpongeBob video. Wait, SpongeTruths, I know them. And then they don't watch it. So, like, maybe that can be enough, you know? Maybe that could be enough.